Happy Friday. Hey. Happy Friday. Well, that's new. Okay, let's see. Fixed? Hey, PFW Scott, we're going to deal with this echo for a second while I figure out what's going on. Okay, but what? I'm still getting it. What about y'all? Okay, you're saying it's fixed on your end, right? I had an open tab of my own Twitch in a different window. So as soon as I muted desktop audio for y'all, you stopped getting the echo, but I was still literally hearing myself on stream. I'm going to try unmuting desktop audio now and see if the echo comes back, which it shouldn't, and see if notifications, the next time we have one, function normally. Genius! How's it going? How are you guys doing? Corpse Handler, your cat is listening? I'm so glad. Just here for coffee? Just got a mug. We only heard the notification once. Everything is working great. Just here for coffee. I'm toasting you with tea, so I hope that is an acceptable substitute. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the Enthusi Army. Chirama says, I've never done that. Absolutely no way. It doesn't happen to me every time I stream. Yep, okay. It's nice to occasionally have a problem that you can encounter, figure out, and fix. It's kind of a little gift, isn't it? Lemon Twist cheered! Congrats on Premier ITing. Thank you. Thank you. Off and not back on again, in this case. So thank you. I once again had to switch scheduling on my stream. I'm very, very happy and lucky to be having some work from home stuff going on right now, but it is making things a little unpredictable. Thank you for rolling with me. Corpse Handler just reached up for 19 months. I have homemade bread and book club. It's a good day. I am so in love with everyone's bread they've been posting. I have not the slightest idea how one begins to bake bread. And I am in awe of all of you. I know, Dark of Nate, that is just an average 5 minutes have gone by, but you're just operating at a level that the rest of us can barely imagine. Corpse Handler, that sounds amazing. LH Saber, in favor of bread. I agree. Oh, Mercury83 says, I guess they just rise to this challenge. Shiny Marigold says, I understand it involves a lot of punching. Halo Wolf just resuffered 25 months. 25 months. Wait, what? Thank you. Star Pilot 6, I did see that update. Remember you all last summer when we shared this stream by the, I think, co-inventor of the Xbox? Making ancient Egyptian bread or attempting to take steps in that direction. Higgledy just resuffered 20 months. Thank you. But there's been an update recently as he's adding more pieces to the process to make it closer to an ancient experience. As Starpilot 6 is saying, apparently he used that ancient Egyptian bread with ancient Egyptian wheat and ancient Egyptian recipe and ancient Egyptian tools. Unbelievable. Aleph Sharp says, Bazone everybody, enjoy a quirky emote and thoughts on maybe doing classic comics runs available in trade for future book clubs. Hi, Nathaniel Lachlan. since might be more accessible. Bread is good, but Passover's this Tuesday, so no bread making for me. Very understandable. I'm glad you can be here. Anonymous just gave a gift of the villain Tyrant to hero. Guess what I'm guessing the rest of that name is. It's off my screen. Okay. Oh. Just Here for Coffee is throwing an incredibly generous book fair. Grigori's now hosting. Thank you so much. Please welcome Chad8472, John D. Quinn, Mark the Orange, Jay Dallen, my brother, Smita, Janidos, Gaz L, Jeremiah Zeb, Krelith, Grigori, Brown Chicken, Ken Abides, Micah Moore 314, Triple U, Zelesium, Akoto Roku, Lots of LOL 126, Reverse Aquamath, Sniper Cat 360, and Tashtag 3. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Please throw books at our new Enthusiarmy members. Welcome to the stream. My name is Amy Dallen. I'm a variety streamer. I talk usually about books and comics, and I play games, and I love retro games. I don't know. You might know me from Jay's on 2 months, from DC Daily, or Geek and Sundry, or Collider, or around the internet. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Was there the anonymous gifter for Villainic Tyrant Hogue? Thank you as well. Just Here for Coffee sends Corgi Bits and says, just wanted to say thanks to the community for keeping me sane during my recent hospitalization. We're so glad you're here. Just Here for Coffee just gave a gift of Denidos. I'm gonna keep reading them as they come in because it's a habit, but... oh my gosh. Gazelle. Lots of substance distraction. Just a normal start of the stream. Hey! So, Jade Allen, my amazing, talented brother, has been helping me work on my lighting from a safe social distance. Jeremiah said, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. Krelith, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. Damn, I might have too much light going on at this point, but I was going to screenshot it and run it by you later. Oh, must be good coffee, says Villainic Tyrant Hero. We've got comics, we've got technical issues, we've got book fairs, we've got it all. Thank you, welcome, Brown Chicken. But Hotep, thank you very much. We miss doing it. Ken Abides, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. Hey, 11 Twist. Alright, so today's order of business, Micah Moore 314, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. You all get beautiful sub badges and emotes made by our own meaning of night. We have a wonderful community-run Discord where people are hanging out. We have the nicest people on the internet. We have a lot of books to talk about. Oh boy, this issue, says Namilis. Triple U, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. An anonymous gifter gifted Bubba Hotep a sub. Thank you. Zelesium, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. Yeah, follow Jay Dallen on Twitch and everywhere. He's an incredibly talented artist. He has the best eye of anyone I know. And a very excellent brain and heart as well. Go to Roku, welcome. You should also, I was gonna hold off, but like, as long as we're here, a mutual friend of ours, an incredibly wonderful, talented performer, named Nicole Tompkins, has some incredible news today. If you didn't see it on my Twitter earlier, she is, and I feel like it's so exciting to get to say out loud, hashtag thank you, welcome to the Enthusiarmy. Y'all, my friend Nicole is Jill Valentine. She is playing Jill Valentine in the Resident Evil 3 remake that dropped today. And it is the coolest, most exciting news. So if I could get a caster command for at twitch.tv/Nikki Lee Tompkins, I think it's with a K. Jay, can you confirm the spelling? It's just absolutely the best because she is also streaming. Just for copies, just wanted to thank you so much for that message. If he was just playing that Dark of Nate! Yay! Jace confirming the spelling. It's just the best. Every class confirms Jay does take awesome pictures. He's a photographer, he's a director, he's a writer. He's a wonderful, creative dude. Thank you, Chandra! And Elf Sharp Cheer, thanks, Anonymous Gifter. Hey! She's here! I keep watching the announcement or the trailers again because you did such a good job. I might be creeping on people's Twitter comments. Everyone agrees that you're awesome. Hey, Detective Zen. An anonymous gifter gave Nikki Lee Tompkins a sub. Welcome to the Enthusi Army. Thank you so much. All right. Aki! Aki's just reached up for 31 months. 31 months of $50 is better than 31 flavors of ice cream. That's a lie, and I will take it. Thank you very, very much. Mikey Glinsky says, that game looks super good. If it's anything like the other remakes, it probably is. Not a Machine just got back from walking a dog. Okay, so a little later today, we're going to get to some gaming, and I'm going to confess I still haven't decided if we're doing King's Quest or just some Animal Crossing. But, in the meantime, we have to get into some spoilers. So this is a big, big spoiler warning. We are talking about Far Sector, the wonderful sci-fi mystery Green Lantern adventure, in the world of DC, from the DC Young Animal line, written by N.K. Jemisin, with art by Jamal Campbell. We are on issue 4 of this miniseries. There have only been 5 issues, and as with much of comics, we are not exactly sure how the schedule is going to go from here on out. So we are about to enter our gotta make them last period. We've been able to jam through the first couple of issues of this book, and we're going to have to savor it for a while. I originally was thinking it would be fun. We can just do monthly check-ins. It'll be even less predictable than I thought, but we're all going to get there together. Spoiler alert, Far Sector is great, says Dark of Nate. Alright, we'll see you for the gaming, Detective Zen. Namilla says, so book club's going to be a page a week until issue 6? That would be an interesting approach. Alright. But as of issue 4, we are hardcore in plot development territory. Issue 3 ended with the absolutely heartbreaking moment where the peaceful protesters of the City Enduring are being fired upon by the peacekeeping forces of the City Enduring. The city which has gone 500 years without a murder and has now had 2 followed by a deadly police action. And the one lone Green Lantern very far from home, whose job it is to deal with all this, is Jo Mullein. And we learn a little bit more this issue about her whole deal, which is that she's got herself a very unusual ring. What were your big thoughts on Far Sector 4, guys? Shadows of Life says, this is the lore issue! We certainly learned some very important facts about City Enduring history, which is that this is not their first mass protest. They have had 12 mass movements to try to end the emotion exploit, the thing dampening everybody's feelings. But apparently, their tried and true methods of squashing dissent may not be so tried and true because they've never done that while an illegal drug that releases everybody's emotions was wreaking havoc on the populace. Dark of Nate recommends not making Joe mad, which I think is a really good advice. Feathered Raven, thank you. I love these books. Obsequious Diphthong says, I feel like this issue confirms that it was just the pro-emotion protesters who got shot. It seems primarily like that's who, you never know who gets caught in the crossfire of things like this. But, Mikey Glinsky says, lots of revelations, a couple of small ones, and one or two really big ones. Aleph Sharp enjoyed the preview of Strange Adventures that they put in the back of this one. It's the current Tom King and Mitch Gerrard's and Doc Shaner collaboration. Heart of Handprints loved the discussion on peace and what qualifies as such. I thought that was a beautiful extension of the themes that we got in issue 3. I also loved that this one, there have been wonderful quotes in each issue, and the one that opens this is, I ain't about to be nonviolent, honey, from Nina Simone, who is one of my all-time favorite musicians. Because there's a time for it, and then a time, for some folks, not for it. And in Joe's case, she will blow your gun up to keep you from firing it on people. And that is a nice example of what not peaceful looks like, which is sometimes called for in this case. Shiny Marigold says, it's so much. Joe is mad, but also at a disadvantage. Not the best combo. Honestly, the sequence of one person attempting to stop an out-of-control riot was fascinating to me because that's a serious challenge, how one person, even gifted with a Green Lantern ring, goes about trying to help the most people in this situation. Lemon Twist has a great point. There are lots of secrets being kept from the person they want to help them. Not wise. It opens the question up of who really invited her and what did they really want to happen? If they sort of, why would you not let her in on some of this history as you're recruiting her? What is her real purpose here? Is it changing over time? Is she still here for the reasons you originally invited her? We now know that one of the counselors didn't even want to call her in, but got overruled. So why was she brought here? Now that she is here, she's going to do the best job she can, whether they like it or not. Have their needs from her changed? Is there a reason they kept this history from her, or did they think that it wouldn't come up? Leia Sky says, my thoughts, it was a lot, and oh dear. LH Saber says, they also never did it with a Green Lantern around. Namilla says, my favorite conversation in this issue is actually the cops talking about Joe. This is fully a scene that she cannot see, which in this book, which has told us a lot about who's telling the story and who they're telling it to being important factors, it's very interesting to see a scene that Joe doesn't know is happening. They are clearly studying her and looking for weaknesses, so that's not scary at all. Shadows of Life says, the ring lore, I want more. So she does not have a normal ring that is recharged about once a day by a power battery. She has one that slowly refills over time and then gets used up. And she is not at a high level right now. So it doesn't need to be recharged in the normal way, but it also has less power, which kind of, to me at least, immediately made sense as sort of a, like, you're traveling far away, you might get separated, whatever the power source is, you have, like, the way a battery-powered version of something you take out of the house is usually less powerful than one that's at home plugged into the current. On some level, that felt intuitive to me, but it's going to be an interesting set of limitations. I did love, speaking of power usage, seeing her flex her powers has been very, very interesting. And the moment where she realizes it's not so hard to fly when you're very distracted by... you're too busy worrying about other things to be scared of flying was a really interesting moment. PFW Scott says, I definitely noticed the red panels after the discussion in previous weeks. Namilla says about the cops conversation, it foreshadows the revelation near the end of the issue that this runs deeper, that the conspiracy to suppress emotional action goes all the way up to the council, who are also exempt from the emotion exploit. Obsequious Diphthong says, it is interesting to me that this whole society is kind of based on the myth that emotions make you do things, rather than make suggestions that you can choose or not to do. So that gets to, I thought, one of the most beautiful moments in this issue, which is the conversation with the widow. The widow of Stephen of the Cliffs, who is actually out there protesting that people should be allowed to have emotions, because she believes that failing to learn to control the emotions is what killed her husband, not the woman who murdered him. And I think, I mean, if the "I can't even grieve" line didn't knock you on your butts, whew, it was a beautiful moment. But her perspective on it is so strongly reminiscent of the peace captain, Sizzin. Have I got that right? Sizz, her peace cap, semi-flirty ex, who said, "I envy you. I can't imagine sort of, I can barely taste these, and I don't know how you just control it and live with that." So this idea of whether you can be trusted to control those feelings and act on them, and the fear of, like, how do you do that, is a through line here. That Joe, in this issue, realizes for the first time that not understanding what that conflict is like is, in some ways, makes her job harder, and that she chose her emotions to keep them for the wrong reasons, even though she thinks she made the right call, which I love that. Namilla says, she's going to have to use connections, diplomacy, grit. Good, then we can beat her. Oh, you poor fools. You don't think she's got grit? I don't know what book they haven't been reading the book. They don't know. They'll find out. Mikey Glinsky says, I like that it did also confirm this was partially a setup to see what she was capable of and get some data on her. So that's terrifying. John Newman says, also, this time they request a lantern? Oh, yeah, literally what you're saying right now. And book club, we're all on the same page. Namilla says, I mean, her ring might not have the capacity or the heights of another lantern, but it's still green. It still defines her key asset as willpower. Dark of Nate says, the splash page of Joe using her powers is a really strong primer on the kinds of things a creative Green Lantern can do with their ring. I love that. I also love them holding up the little Green Lantern sign to get her attention. So, here's creative solutions to crowd control when you're a Green Lantern. Physically separating people. This plane, which is dropping, it looks like water or something on the fires, which is amazing. Lifting this rock off of the person who's been crushed. Loudspeakers to amplify her voice as she barricades off the road. Literally just being there for someone. That's not a superpower, but it might as well be. And then, of course, the sign with the green smoke, which I love very much. Was Stephen's wife. This protest was our idea. And so she says, we're going to keep protesting again. We're going to do it again until it works. Aleph Sharp says, interesting thing. We went from Joe in a Morpheus chair and outfit in the intro. This is the first time since then we see Joe herself narrating in the intro. First time since issue 1. We see Joe herself narrating in the intro, and she seems to be fighting or doing something with some sort of machine. I feel like these intro sections, and whether they're just narrated or showing Joe narrating, has some indication I can't quite pick out yet. Interesting. So yeah, we get a wonderful recap page. She's fighting. It looked to me like a tentacle monster of some kind that she's punching out here. But who knows? A very good question. So in issue 1, we open with the scene of the crime and voiceover. In issue, I think 3, we have in issue 2, I think we have the Morpheus intro. In issue 3, we have the info dump. Whoop. So they're changing it up in the intro style. Geeky Chappy arises and sits quietly at the back. Aww. Mikey Glinsky says, it makes sense why a lot of her previous power usages have been detail-oriented rather than large and flashy. Tire Cap is now following. Thank you. Shiny Marigold says, is she being set up to fail? Sounds like whoever gave her the ring doesn't believe in her either. And Namilla says, I don't think the Lantern Corps works that way. But the question is, did she get this from, who did she get this from? Whose hand is handing the ring over? It's interesting because that hand has the fancy nails, which we have seen on Joe's constructs. So do we have guesses about whose hand this is, or whether this is an official Lantern Corps? I mean, it seems official. Oa has reports on it, but she's not one of the sent. She doesn't. She's, you know, an outpost, off regular territory Green Lantern. So there's something unofficial about it. Also, how come she made that cute little monster when she was making a chair at the first meeting? Fluffybutt has a guess. Could be a solar power ring, or could it get emotional power from the people using Switch Off? Obsequious Diphthong says her ring seems to respond to her unconscious thoughts more than normal rings as well. Dark of Nate says, as we all know, the trick to flying is aiming for the ground and missing. And there's one classic interpretation of flight. JJ Dane says, making the hero work with limited resources can make for really great storytelling with the right writer. Well, that's something I love as well. Like, you are on the fringes of space, you are not close to help, and you are working with a very defined capacity weapon. So, you know, good luck. That's a wonderful setup. Shining Marigold says, yes, the Widow said exactly what I was thinking. Your emotions will always control you until you learn to control them, and they're being sold a story that they can't control their own emotions. At least that's what some of them believe. Others believe that they all agreed to stop having them after they destroyed their own planets, and others believe that they only destroyed their own planets because they were manipulated. It's complicated. And there is a question in there of, let's say everybody was on the same page when they started having the exploit. That would not be unjust because they all decided it together. But the people born into this system didn't get a choice in it. So how do they have a legitimate grievance that they never got a choice? You know, it makes a lot of sense in some ways, even if it wasn't imposed from the top down. Now, we also know that the top down in this case includes a set of people who have just decided they get to break the rules. Although if they've been ignoring the emotion exploit for generations, but Switch Off hasn't been flooding the marketplace until now, what were they using before now? Was it something only some of them had? Was there a different thing that functions in the same way as Switch Off? Is there a change in who has access to it now? Is that the difference? Does it have other addictive properties? Or is it just doing the emotion thing? Travisus is now following. Thank you! Mikey Glinsky says, that opening is 100% an Independence Day reference. More pop culture shoutouts. That's Will Smith punching out the alien. That's a wonderful... I didn't catch that at all. Dragging you through the burning desert with your dreadlocks hanging out the back of my parachute. One of my favorite lines. Buffybot says, what about the 1-year time limit? When we heard the first reference to the 1-year time limit, it was like, you have a year to see if this is for you. And she basically says, I knew right away. But now it sounds like you have a year. This is a test, essentially. Like, either make it work in that time or it's over. It felt different, this reference. Namilla says, isn't the speech bubble of the person giving her the ring green? It is. And they clearly have a Green Lantern ring to offer. So that makes it sound like 1 year in a ring like no other. 1 year to make a difference. Makes it sure seem like an official Green Lantern-y source. Shadows of Life wants to know if there's a research and development department in the Lanterns. Maybe this is an experimental new type of ring. Hey, Critter Nation! The fact that there's an OA report that she's filing makes it seem, maybe unofficial is the wrong word, because it seems to clearly be sanctioned by the Corps. She considers herself a Green Lantern, but she is outside of the normal structure of them in some way. And so I'm not sure about, like, it doesn't seem like she was selected when a previous Green Lantern died on this beat because no Green Lantern has had this beat. So in some ways, we know she's outside of that system, even though she seems to be clearly officially sanctioned. Fluffybutt has a guess about why Joe's dad's message is going to take months to get to her. Thinks it's a paper letter. Mikey Glinsky says, pretty much every page of this made me more interested in learning more about it. Backstory, motivations, etc. Star Pilot 6 says there was a set of narration that implied Joe had a chance to get the exploit herself, which, I mean, that opens up possibilities if they can just give it to anybody. Like, what if they're planning on expanding? That's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe they're testing it on an alien. John Numa says, also, how about that I just didn't want to give my emotions up line? And Namilis says to John Numa, as somebody autistic, that resonated with me, Namilis, in the sense of, would I take a cure for my brain weird? That is a complicated question. Mikey Glinsky says, what's changed since the last time people protested is, for me, one of the biggest questions of this series right now. Aleph Sharp says, welcome back to my panel shape analysis. I can't help it in comics in general anymore. What have you done to me, book club? I'm okay with it. Favorites. The firing of that beam has a small stationary rectangular panel overlaid on an angular panel showing the pre-moment of the action firing it, putting the full image of the sketchy police military official in the actual background layout of the page. Explanations, reasons overlaid with consequences is something I've noticed. Let's find that one. The firing of the beam. Which one are you looking at there, Aleph? Is that in the previous issue or in this one? Is it when they fire on the protesters or when she blows up the gun that you're thinking of? I do love her panel blowing up the gun. See what I did there? Not peace. Fluffybutt says maybe the ring is sentient and it gave itself to Joe. JJ Dane says, wouldn't be the first time a Guardian had her or his own agenda, their own agenda. The Guardians of Oa are the mostly benevolent but frequently troublesome entities who created the Green Lantern Corps. Bye, Chandra! Lemonito asks, how did folks interpret Joe's expression after she asked the council whether previous insurrections happened during an emotional pandemic? That's a great question. My interpretation was that they did not have a switch off running through the population then, and she cannot believe that this has not occurred to them as they assume that the traditional ways of things won't change. But maybe she's just frustrated that they would keep that from her. Starpilot 6 says, also, I don't even go here. Mean Girls ref? I feel like it has to be. Corpse Sandler says, 1 year to make a difference is awkwardly poignant right now. I'm finding that with a lot of the things that I read and watch. This issue, page 5, when she blows up the gun. Oh, yeah, I didn't notice the angling on the panel. Oh, that's perfect, yeah. Dark of Nade, DC lore drop. The Owens are the oldest race in the universe and distinguish themselves by figuring out how to harness emotion as literal power. Anonymous just gave a gift to Winter Soldier 2814. Nice number. Specifically Will, continues Dark of Nade. They then pretentiously named themselves Guardians of the Universe and have been kind of jerks ever since. Green Thing LP says, I'm typically confused as to what Jemison means by no emotion. There are emotions all over the book, not just from Joe or the addicts. I think that is supposed to be deliberately mysterious, but it's very interesting because I do still feel we're still trying to understand what they mean by that. I think that the expression of very muted emotions, the conversation we got with Peace Captain Sizzin is supposed to be pretty much what we should imagine it feels like. But the truth is, as Joe has just realized, she doesn't know what it feels like. Sisu Naki! Winter Soldier 2814 dropped in to say that the book club episode 1 made me read Far Sector, which I'd been buying digital but hadn't read yet. Binged all published issues over the course of an afternoon. I'm so glad! Aleph Shep says the small rectangle and the slanted top of the actual beam firing. Similarly, the sketchy person under the text explanation. You mean down here? I think he might be off screen this way, but she's looking in that direction, or towards the Peacekeepers. The bloody hand being the background, the pictures visible under the under panels on that page explaining what they did. These statues are a very interesting inclusion. I'm looking for the bloody hand you're describing. But it's a wonderful page. Lemon Eater says, do we think the previous interactions were or weren't during an emotional pandemic? There's a follow-up to that question. Buffybutt thinks the emotional mute is wearing off. Namilla says, I have a bad feeling that this happens recurrently, and switch off or something like it is part of it. The other two were on pages after that. Ah, gotcha, Aleph. Yeah. This sketchy guy in the background of the layout gives context to it and is beautifully contrasted with her flying figure here. Oh, yeah. Obsequious Sipthunk says, also, are we going to mention that the Senescal is recording this conversation with the council secretly? Who is that for? I want to know. I also want to know. I would love it if that is secretly someone who's going to be on Joe's side, who is going to expose, if in fact, if Martha's telling the truth and the whole council is on the emotion exploit, or off the emotion exploit, has emotions. You know which direction I'm trying to say. It'd be interesting to know if the one recording it is actually going to end up being an ally to Joe as they kind of expose what's going on there. John Nubis says on the page Aleph's referring to, it's also a neat 180-degree rotation of the camera view of Joe. Beautifully communicative. Aleph Sharp says, that seems to be happening throughout the series, I've just noticed. That council panel series, split by Golden Arrow scroll work. I loved that. Explaining how the elite of the city are killing and imprisoning those with dissenting opinions, leaving the broken open mouth/crescent as a space for Joe to speak. The one person currently allowed by them to contradict, but within the framework. The target central centering on the one who didn't want Joe there as the center of the opposition to her. Beautifully noticed, Aleph. We'll get to the council here. This angry Joe at the corner being like, oh, wait, guys. Yeah, this is beautiful. She is speaking out. Everybody has their own different perspectives here, including the wild card, someone who's transmitting out. I do love her line, like trying to counsel victims of trauma if I've never once imagined what vulnerability feels like. She's glad she kept her emotions, but she thinks she did it for the wrong reasons. because she's just getting a sense of what it's really like for them. I do also love when she calls the council on this. You wanted to tell me how it makes sense to send me out there to save lives, then kill dozens of people right in front of me? Give me the bare bones, unsentimental, coldly rational calculation that went into that little decision chain. I'll wait. She is making some very good points here. And we know that there may have been an element where they were just testing her here. We know that they may be changing their strategy as they go. But, Averup Thorn here seems to really want her here, helping with this, issue. I do love, Lantern, do you have any recommendations for the record? Already gave it. Stop killing people. You've already given this new cause its first martyrs. And she calls a taxi because she's almost out of power. So she has an uncooperative elite. She has a possible conspiracy to find her weaknesses. She has a whole lot of murders on her hands. So many Red Joe panels, says Obsequious Diphthong. Well, wouldn't you be mad? Fluffy Butt says, I loved it when one of the council members told the other to kindly shut up. Goblin War said, I like that one character who was like, why do we need her? I think that's at Blaze of Glory. Starpilot 6 and Namilus both think Marth might be behind the testing here. Starpilot 6 says, I feel like Marth is behind the testing strategy. And Namilus says Marth's been testing her the entire series. Obsequious Diphthong says they may also have different strategies personally. Winter Soldier points out that opening fire on the protesters is reminiscent of the Kent State shooting, which we talked about last time. There were a ton of references and events in that last one that we sort of did brief versions of, but hopefully give people some starting points for research. Namilla says, remember he gave the order to fire right after talking to her about how memories are useless without emotions. Shiny Marigold says, can I just say how much I love the low-rent bat signal? I love it so much. Mikey Glinsky says, that outfit for the rain right after the meeting, I love everything about it. And it's so noir and Blade Runner and great. Dark of Nate says, Averup Thorn is increasingly coming across as the most helpful counselor, which in noir story terms means he's probably the one we should be most suspicious of. Don't forget, he respects her and or wants to eat her. Shadows with Light says, is there a lantern for this sector, or is it too far for a lantern station in the sector? I believe the point is that this is outside the regular known sectors. This is in one that doesn't have a name or a number yet. Just outside. Here there be dragons. A far sector. There was one more reference in here that I was gonna look into. Also, just literally, who is this guy? That seems real important. We know Tillage is the, he's captain she's dealing with here. What was the other thing I was gonna look up? Any other final thoughts on number 4, guys? Looking something up, guys. I was, thanks for rolling with me there. I was looking up you when she says you want your Dyson Swarm back, what she's referencing there. But the Dyson Swarm, of course, is the cluster of platforms that makes up the city Enduring. Brill Brainwave says, yeah, but it's been flat out stated at times that the GL Core covers the entire universe, as nutty as that is. I think you just have to assume this is in a backwoods area that's somehow just not on the regular maps. Fluffybot is curious whether the council is considering legalizing switch off, and that's why they called the lanterns. That would be an interesting and unexpected move. Nimilla says, I mean, there's a lot of universe. Mikey Glinsky says, I think the emphasis is usual range. PFW Scott says, final thoughts. Jemison and Campbell, why are you so good? Obsequious Diphthong says, the consumption of a sentient being should be done with reverence and contemplation, and consent, of course. The exploit corrupted the experience for both of them. That the widow and the Katopli, who is talking about it with her, being very much on the same page there, I loved as a surprising perspective on their loss. Elf Chef says it feels like it's building to a major thing. Real Brainwave, that would surprise me. I think part of the point of this one is, my best guess is that it's just she's off on her own because being distant from the other concerns will help to make the stakes of this story clearer. But you could be right. Shiny Marigold says, Joe's got her work cut out for her, but maybe now she has a better idea of exactly what that work will entail. Goblin Wars is trying to remember where it ended other than almost everyone against her. It ends with her leaving the council meeting and calling a taxi. And her ring not being very fully charged, and her flashback to the mission, which is now a ticking clock over her head. 1 year to make a difference. John Numa says, especially if we're taking a break from this, my main final thought is just a big thank you, Amy, for introducing this series to me, as well as to the Army for all the awesome thoughts along the way. Mikey Glinsky's curious to see what the next issue holds. Dark of Nate says, it continues to stand out to me that in every faction we see, police, protesters, etc., they specifically show representatives from all three races. Like, the creators want us to know that these issues plaguing the society are class-based, not alien species-based. But we have hints that there's even more complexity within that. It's not as simple as species on species, but we do have two of the same ship clan in the police force, and she wonders if that's important, because there may be fault lines you can't see within those groups. I love, though, that they've thought through with the sophistication of a society where things break up among a million different invisible fault lines, and not merely among the obvious ones, which may also be a huge factor. You have people with derogatory nicknames for members of the other groups, as we saw in, I think, the first issue. You also have the, suspicion, oh, I bet it was made by one of the AT-ATs, because it was, of course they would come up with this. But then, as you're very accurately pointing out, they are taking care to show that a lot of these groups, like the police force, the protesters, and the counter-protesters, all contain people from each of these different groups who are there for their own reasons. It's beautifully complex and realistically complex. Aleph Sharp says, right, because it's like a Dyson sphere, but a series of platforms that make sense upon reflection. Mikey Glinsky says, almost forgot for this stream. The art, as always, is beautiful. Down Under Dwarf says, it's also fascinating. I think others have put it better than I could, but it's really interesting seeing all the pieces of the puzzle and how they interact. And the artwork is gorgeous. Aleph Sharp says, the Coast Guard supposedly covers the coast and off the coast, but, there's plenty to miss considering the size. So, similar. Shannon Marigold says, I think PFW Scott speaks for all of us on that one. Final thoughts. Namilla says, her ring will recharge itself. It's just going to take some time. The question is what's going to happen while it's doing that. Speaking of, time to read issue 5. Leia Sky says, I love this series so far. This is making this real fun to read and then discuss with you all. I'm so glad. Down Under Dwarf says, it's a first comic series for you to be introduced to. Oh boy, it's a good one. I'm so glad. Lemon Twist says, final thought, this is an amazing tale that I would have missed so many levels of without book club. And John Numa summed it up perfectly. Thank you. Obsequious Diphthong says, strange that all the accusatory language towards other species is seen at the council and not at the street level. Shiny Marigold says, maybe she can read the new fanfic chapter while her ring is recharging. Winter Soldier agrees with Mikey Glinsky that this is a perfect time for complications because she may be ringless when it ramps up. Right when you don't have your resources is usually when the bad stuff's coming for you in a story. And sometimes in the world. John Numa is hoping issue 5 is just the fanfiction. Corpse Handler's thoughts. Really sad that there might be delays because you need more. So, issue 5 has already come out. It is available digitally, but the physical copies are sort of in limbo for a lot of folks because it was the last week of regular shipping when many stores had already shut down due to COVID-related reasons. And we don't know the schedule going forward right now for comics in general, of which Far Sector is a part. So I'm not making any assumptions about when we get new chapters. So this wraps up our issue 4 of Far Sector. I am having the best time going through this with y'all. A work where we actually don't know which hints are being dropped because we have no idea how this ends. But we get to go through it together. So we are not going to roll on right away to number 5. I'm going to think about whether we might eventually do number 5 since it does have digital availability. But we're going to switch gears for a little bit. I think next week, I still have to figure out my schedule going forward. But we'll probably be doing no official next reading yet. Stay tuned to streams. We will probably switch gears and do something else. Either smaller or as we decide what our next focus is before we get back to number 5. Hi, Arctic Thunderbird. Real Brainwave, you got your 5. Excellent. So, book club will continue. TBDBC, says John Numa. Book club will continue, but don't worry about hitting 5 for next week or anything. We will have a week off from book club next week, and in the meantime, on my other streams, I will probably announce what we are doing next. So stay tuned to streams and Twitter for that. This has been such a blast. Thank you so much for joining me for book club. Thank you, Jesse, for coffee, for throwing that incredible book fair. And now, after a short break, bye, Aleph. After a short break, I think we're going to do some Animal Crossing. We're going to see if I can port my tech over from book club to Animal Crossing settings without borking everything. Mikey Glissy says, if this book club has taught me anything, we could read anything and turn it into an hour-long deep dive. It's so fun. You all are the best. Sure, we can cross some animals, says Dark of Nate. Lemon Twist, good night. Winter Soldier, thanks for the stream, Amy. Appreciate you turning me on to this title. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Enthusi Army. Anonymous just gave a gift to Arctic Thunderbird. Thank you. All right, so short break. Get your beverages ready, and we're gonna be back to cross some animals. Thanks so much.